Okay, so today is the birthday of Arne Jacobsen, but by the way of celebrating, paying homage to Arne Jacobsen, I will also talk about another very important Danish architect, John Utzon, who was younger than Arne Jacobsen. So John Woodson, born in 1918 and he died in 2008. He is very well known for being of course, the author of the opera in Sydney, but he did much more than that. Here he is as a young man, with a little desk. He didn't have a big office, but it didn't matter. He was still capable of winning that huge competition for the opera in Sydney. Here he is with a model. Here he is in his later years. And here he is playing like a child on the floor. And I like this very much, that a great architect plays like a child on the floor and enjoys himself. Bravo to him. Some drawings by John Utzon. He had drawings, some of them of with a certain artistic quality. You could say, almost visionary drawings, lyrical drawings. Here is a sketch for the opera in Sydney, another sketch for a church he built in Copenhagen, and I will talk about it. This is a study. He traveled a lot, and he admired a lot the architecture of Asia, which he knew very well, Japan, China, and so on, but also admired a lot the architecture of Central and South America, the Mayan pyramids, and so on. He was a very well-traveled man, and what he saw influenced him. His own house, a modernistic house. He built, I know of 2 houses, and I'll show both. But this was the first one he built. And at one moment when I made this presentation about half a year ago, there was a student from England who told us that apparently he built this house without drawings. Well, I see here drawings, but I don't know if the drawings were made afterwards or by someone else. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. This was his first house. And the architectural language is rather, not predictable necessarily, but to an extent predictable as well. Modernism, almost international style. A building that was very attached to the earth. It has qualities, without doubt, as an architecture. And it would be actually interesting to compare this building by John Utzon with the buildings of Arne Jacobsen. So this was his first house. And yes, I was told that he built it on the site by showing to the construction people where to build constructive elements, structural and so on, and the building came into being. Excellent craftsmanship. In Denmark, there is a great appreciation for craftsmanship, even if the architecture is simple in a way, but the brick wall is well built. There is a respect for placing a brick above another brick. The setting is splendid. Now, this is the other house he built for himself. Later on, maybe 40 years later or so, 50 years later, in Mallorca. A different house altogether in the south, in the Latin world, not in Denmark, near the sea. But still you see something of his rigor, and you could perhaps say that it's still a building by John Utzon. Now we arrive at another house from 1953. So he was born in 1918. So he was 35 years old, 35, 37 years old when he built this house. And it was when I prepared this material on sale for 3 million British pounds. It also had the name then AHM House, um, similar to the first house he built. I wouldn't say typical Danish architecture, but its architectural language does have certain things in common with other buildings built in Denmark. This kind of aesthetics is still, to an extent, at home, so to speak, in the Scandinavian world. Maybe not just in the Scandinavian world. So, if you want to purchase this house, I don't know if it is still for sale, but it was at the time when I prepared this material. Okay, we move forward because actually the main goal of today is Arne Jacobsen. This is more like a bonus, so to speak, just to compare two important Danish architects. So John Utzon, he's well known as the author of the opera in Sydney, but we'll see other very important works by him. And these are just some houses that he built. Generally, yes, most people do not know of anything else built by him. He built some very interesting buildings besides the opera in Sydney and having almost nothing in common with the opera in Sydney. Like this building, who would have expected that this architect who built this house would build the opera in Sydney, which has a different architectural language altogether. Now, this building I show in a certain detail because I found this material, which a real estate company publicized, and that's why I have so many pictures with this particular house building by John Woodson. Now we arrive at a very interesting and valid housing complex. This is a one unit. The house is the plan of the house is in L, but then there is the courtyard square. With a courtyard, but the courtyard itself is square. And it creates a very intimate, almost introverted unit. And he couples, he brings together such a unit with other units. And so he obtains, I think, a very interesting rural kind of arrangement. We see here the site plan. So there is multiplicity in unity. There is variety, but there is also unity. And I think he was able with this project to unite the rural with the urban. And this is not always easy to do. You saw the plans already. Now some pictures. I like this complex of buildings, maybe because I was born in Transylvania and there is some kind of, it's the wall architecture. It's an architecture to an extent of introversion. But there is still togetherness because these units, although they are oriented inwardly, they also, because of their connections with the other buildings, represent a sense of togetherness. The same excellent brickwork, and I like very much this architecture that John Utzon did. A social concern that is obvious, but also a concern for each unit having its own privacy. And I think it's a very pleasant architecture which unites the private with the public. The tree in the center, as perhaps it should be. And he did various arrangements. I think he built two complexes using the same scheme. This is the second one, as you can see, but the housing unit is the same. So again, who would have thought that the architect of the opera in Sydney would have done something like this? And he did. And it is an important architecture, and it should be known. And it has relevance for us as well here in Romania, because it is an architecture that is, placed in nature, or in a village, or at the edge of a city, of a town. And it's truly a very, very pleasant, I wouldn't mind at all living in such a house. Having my own courtyard, and at the same time not to feel isolated, to be connected with others, like you can see here. Now, this is a very important project and building by him, a church in Copenhagen. It's a building that Kenneth Frampton admired, and he writes about it in his book on studies in tectonic studies in architecture. I visited this building, and it is truly a very fine building, a modern church, a church that is articulated very well in various zones. The liturgical space, which has elements of expressionism, if I can say so, or a certain lyricism that is emphasized here. But then it has also other parts of the building that are more connected with what I would call the secular, the sacred and the profane, to use the title of a book by Mircea Eliade. It's a building that is discreet, but it also has the power of the actual liturgical space transcends discretion. Otherwise, the building, as you can see, is very reticent, and I love this reticence. After all, in front of God, shouldn't one be reticent? But here, the large space is it's almost like being inside an organ, although outside the image is not that of an organ. But look at the section. In the section, this space evokes its function. And I think it's one of his best buildings. Look at the plan, look at the section. It makes sense. It has a part which is doesn't try to impose any kind of rhetoric or any kind of even expression, but then it erupts here as almost like an hymn dedicated to the religious, the church service. And yeah, it's a good building. And interestingly, you see the Baroque, in a way, the Baroque fluidities of what is happening inside, but towards the outside is a very discreet building that does not really anticipate what is inside. Now, this section, this part of the section could make one think of a possible relationship with the opera in Sydney, but it's subdued, it's hidden within the structure of the building, which is otherwise reticent. You could also say that there are some influences from the East, from Asia, especially in the exterior manifestation of its architecture. I mean, look at the plan. Most people who say that cannot be a church, but it is a church. It has other functions, maybe even a school, and maybe some places for apartment or apartments. It has it's a hybrid program. It's not just the church. In a way, the church ends here, but this part, its tail, in a way, has its importance too. Again, it's about the sacred and the profane coming together. everything is fine. I mean, look at these doors. They are robust. They are not adorned with. There is no need for makeup. It's just real wood, and it warms up a little bit. But discreetly, the grayness of concrete. I like this building very much, and it is. It shows how it was made, how it was built. You understand it is transparent for the spirit, for the eye, how this building was erected, how it was built. It's honest. It has a high level, I would say, of honesty. On the other hand, it also has surprises, like here. It's an architecture that doesn't say everything about itself from the outside. I mean, look at this step here. There are interesting things happening here, even at the level of detail. There is even a discrete form of ornamentation, very discrete, but it exists. So it's not a building that accepts the modernistic dogma of totally banishing ornament. No, the ornament exists, but it is incorporated into the structure of the building and is discrete. Now, some Revit drawings of the same building. Of course, it wasn't him who did these drawings. I just thought of incorporating them in the presentation. I will not insist on them. So they are computer drawings, but of a building that was built without such computer drawings. The opera in Sydney. We couldn't miss this project. As you know, probably it was built following an international competition, and there is an interesting story about it. Initially, his project was rejected. Eero Saarinen, the great Finnish architect, Finnish American architect, was the chief juror. He arrived in Sydney one day later. There were problems with the plane. And in one day, the other members of the jury eliminated the drawings of John Utzon. But when Saarinen arrived in Sydney, he wanted to also take a look at the projects that were rejected. And he discovered the drawings of Woodson. At that time, he was building the TWA terminal in New York, which has elements of organic architecture, and he sympathized with the proposal by Woodson, and being the chief juror, he was able to impose to convince the others of the value of the work, and that's why Sydney has now the opera that it has. Interesting story, I think, because chains, in a way, cannot be totally avoided in the evaluations of architecture. There is a level of subjectivity because it has to do with taste, with preferences, it's not a totally objective process. Saarinen loved this project, but maybe others didn't. Anyway, here he is. There was a long story. It took a long time to discover how to build what he initially drew, rather in a schematic way. And in the end, the building was built with important architects over Arup. Peter Rice was there for a number of years, they struggled, and the building was much more costly than initially was estimated. In fact, the third um, period of the construction of the opera in Sydney, Utzon was not even there any longer because of a divorce with the Australian, with the authorities in Sydney and the Australian government. They had conflicts, so he left. The building was built, but the last phase, in the last phase, he was not there any longer. There were big conflicts between him and the Australian authorities. But nevertheless, the building was finalized, and here it is. And it is, you cannot conceive of Sydney without the opera, in as much as you cannot conceive of Paris without the Tour Eiffel. It's you know, an icon of the city. It was an odyssey. It was a great adventure, and he succeeded. He succeeded, even if he was in the end not replaced because he left himself. But although he was not there any longer, the building was built, and it was a saga. Yes, a great saga, a difficult process, but here was an idea that he had actually, you know, to generate, how to generate these things, which he only drew at first with a pencil, but you know, in order to build them, there was a great need of rigor. It was built, and the building stands and is one of the wonders, I would say one of the wonders of modernity in architecture. And bravo to him. It shows that it pays to take risks. He took risks and he won. And as former President Obama said, or not just him, maybe he was quoting, several people said the same thing. If you risk, you might lose. But if you don't risk, you lose for sure. So it's better to take risks. He took risks and he won. When there were 100 years since his birth, meaning in 2018, I launched a competition, a memorial for John Woodson in front of in this space, here in front of the opera in Sydney. And I received about 20 projects from various countries, quite interesting. An homage to him when his centennial was. Okay, here he is. It must be splendid, you know, when you I don't know, when you create something, you know, so vital and so interesting and new and original, and be able to implement it. That's why he laughs, you know, because he's a man who accomplished something, who realized something, who earned his life. Anyway, I am not reading this. I already mentioned some of the things that, you know, about the saga of this building coming into being. Now we arrive at another very interesting work by him, the Utzon Center in Aalborg in Denmark. Also an excellent building. And he is able again here to marry, as I said, the sacred and the profane, to use maybe abusively a little bit the title of Mircea Eliade's book. The base is, you know, rather prosaic, but the roofing becomes expressive and emotionally charged. And look at the building, it's splendid. It has both sides, the rational and the irrational, if I am to express myself in this way. So another great building by Woodson, which is not very well known, and it should be known. I am so sorry that students are not here. You know, they could have been inspired by looking at the works of John Woodson and afterwards looking at the works of Arne Jacobsen. And they miss a great chance, you know, and they are at home now. They could have clicked to be present from the comfort of their homes and they still don't do it. And I do not understand why. Um, because I send the invitation to many people, but they don't want to do it, and they lose. You, like Utzon, he traveled to various countries. Now we can travel, on the internet, and we can see many things from the comfort of our homes. It's very, very easy. It's not quite the same, I agree. But instead of going to Denmark or to Australia, to Sydney, you can do without expenditures quite well from your home, and be inspired. It's about that, getting inspiration. And there are great buildings here. I mean, it's impossible not to notice the quality of the architecture. Even here, look at this interior, just like in the church. This is an amphitheater, but the amphitheater is also special, just like that liturgical space of that church in Copenhagen that he built. And the roofing is the exalting element. You become exalted because of the roofing. And the light, of course, that is filtered through the roofing. A fine building, I would say, and I'm happy he built it. Now, I end the presentation on John Woodson with a project which was not built. He collaborated with a great artist, Danish artist, Asger Jorn. Interestingly, his name was Asger Jorn, and Utzon Jorn Utzon. They were friends, and they respected each other, and they liked each other, and they wanted to create this museum for Asger Jorn. Unfortunately, Asger Jorn died when they were planning the project, so it was never built. But there is the project, which is a very nice project. This was the plan. Of course, it was just schematically drawn, but it was already conceived. Here they are, the two. On the left, the artist, on the right, the architect, and the sections through the museum. I love that picture of Asger Jorn on the left and John Utzon on the right. Like two kids, like two children enjoying themselves, creating something together. Beautiful. Even if it was not built, it's okay. Of course, it would have been better if it was built, but what can we do? This is the study for the plan on yellow tracing paper, the section and the view of the building, manual drawings, but beautiful drawings done by John Woodson. I'm sure he drew them. There was no one else who drew this. And here they are. I really love this picture. John Utzon on the right, Asger Jorn on the left. And look at the gestures they make with their hands. It's about the great joy that creativity brings to people and to life. Very nice picture. And a view of, well, this was generated digitally. It was not built yet, and maybe it will never be built. I understood there were some problems with the location. The earth was very, very humid, very frail, and but I think if they really wanted to build it after the death of both, because they both died, they could have done it. I'm talking about Denmark. And you'll see also a few images from the left, from the outside. These are images generated digitally for the project, but a very important project. Underground, most of it, as you can see. In a way, the expressive part of the building is mostly manifest underground and not above the ground, although there are some parts above the ground as well, and you are going to see them. Again, the section. It's sad that this building was not built. The museum, the foundation, the Woodson Foundation had an exhibition. You see the fantastic Fata Morgana, that's how they called it. It wasn't a Fata Morgana. It was the laziness, sorry for the strong word, of those who could have done something to build it, but they didn't. Anyway, this is an image of the museum as it could have been if it was built. With these volumes being painted by Asger Jorn, this was the desire that they both had to build it in this way. Unfortunately, it was not built like this, but it remained like a thought, like a feeling, like an aspiration, like a desire. And I think in this project, again, John Utzon showed his weight as an architect, as a creative architect. Okay, now we go to Arne Jacobsen. The architect was born on this day, February 11th, and we wish him happy birthday. He was born in 1902. John Woodson was born in 1918, so there was a difference of 16 years between them, Arne Jacobsen being a little older. He also lived a shorter life. He died at 69. John Woodson lived a long life. He died at 90. Okay, this is a quotation from Jacobsen. If a building becomes architecture, then it is art. And I would say it is so. And it is the difference between a building and architecture. Just a building is not yet architecture, but when it becomes architecture, it is indeed art. He also said, it's a funny expression he used to have, design is fine, history is mine. Well, anyway, so Arne Emil Jacobsen was born on February 11th in 1902, was a well-known Danish architect and furniture designer. He is remembered for his contribution to architectural functionalism and for the worldwide success he enjoyed with simple but effective chair designs. But he designed other things as well, not just chairs. Anyway, here he is, smoking his pipe. Yeah, he was a great designer of chairs. In fact, I read that, well, this chair that he sits on was very, very expensive, like $75,000, but very, very, very comfortable. I read that it was the most comfortable chair on earth. So this is Arne Jacobsen. Happy birthday, sir. Here he is again and again, sitting in this wonder armchair, if I am to call it armchair, with an artistically produced picture and some drawings of Arne Jacobsen. The drawings are rather naive, ludic. This gas station was built, and you are going to see it in detail. This is a drawing for a cinema that he built also at the beginning of his career. This is a building for a hotel, SAS Hotel in Stockholm, I think, and an important building in his oeuvre. Some glassware. He designed, as I said, many, many things. He was very famous also as a designer, and his pieces are still produced. A very elegant designer, but the Scandinavians in general are quite good at design. You know, modern Scandinavian design, either objects, furniture, buildings. They are excellent, and they continue to be in the present. After all, the much celebrated firm Big is also Danish. Anyway, this was a project for a roundhouse. He also experimented. I mean, he was not always very reticent, as Scandinavians often are. You know, a playful drawing. So he had a playful side as well. He was not just an international style architect. He did even, you know, I don't know if this became a tapestry or not, but it looks like a tapestry. Project, you know, hand-drawn in pencil, but I don't think it was built. But even as a project, it has a certain significance. Now we arrive at this tower, this thing that he built. This was he was he was born in 1903, so he was 29 years old when he built this tower near the sea. Yeah, it's by Arne Jacobsen. Maybe doesn't seem to be so exceptional, but I don't know. He used three legs often in the designs of his chairs. And here we have three. There is a certain unconventionality here. You know, someone more conventional would have used four legs, or I don't know, even one, but not three. So there is a level of surprise and even instability there. Yes.
Cool.
So this is Arne Jacobsen, his first work that I present here. Now a residential complex in Copenhagen. Again, he was rather young, 28, 29 years old. And it's fine. It's you know, white modernistic architecture, clean design, but there is also the rhythm. And he's good with the rhythm. I love that car. I usually don't like cars, but this car I like. I don't know what kind of car it is. It's from the 50s. Anyway, it looks good here in front of this housing complex, and even the tree looks good. It's a good picture. Anyway, the building is also good and luminous. And if it was in Tel Aviv, it would have been considered the Bauhaus project. It's not. It's in Copenhagen. It's by Arne Jacobsen, and it was built in the 30s. But in the 30s, the Bauhaus already, well, dismantled in 1933. I don't think he was necessarily influenced by the Bauhaus. No. This is a Scandinavian design of 90 years ago, and it still stands, I think, the test of time. Now, this is the theater and the restaurant from 1935, 1936. So he was in his early 30s when he built it. It's a good work and connected aesthetically with what we just saw. Bellevue Theater, you know, the theater, and we'll see also images from the inside. It's, you know, it has the roof opens, and so it's spectacular, no? Even by today's standards. It's elegant, but also spectacular. 1935 or so, so 85 years ago, 86 years ago. Not bad. Bravo, Arne Jacobsen. There is also a restaurant there. Sorry, the picture is not so, perhaps so inviting as the colored ones. This is a chair he designed for that restaurant. In fact, you can see it here. This chair was designed by Arne Jacobsen specifically for that restaurant, connected with the theater. Look at this curve here and the thinness of the wood. And I don't know if it's wood. Is it, or is it lead? No, it's probably wood, but so thin. I'm surprised. It is a good chair. It's stable. Look, it becomes thicker at the bottom and then decreases the thickness towards the top, and the curvature pays attention to the back of someone's body. So it's a fine chair. It's not very extravagant. It's good. It's not very extravagant. It looks like a nice, comfortable chair. A view from the theater again, and this is the plan of this building by him. He was in his early 30s when he built it. Now, this is the gas station, the petrol station that we saw the drawing of. 1936, so 34 years old he was when he built it. It's a very simple building, but this canopy supported just by one pole, one column here, kind of like, because there are no beams, is like, the invention of Robert Maillard. I talked about Robert Maillard a few days ago, and he maybe Arne Jacobsen got inspired by him. It's a thin slab that sits on top of a column, and then you have the column. There are no beams, but there is this growth of the column when it reaches towards the slab. It's fine. It's also expressive. It's a little bit sculptural, and it's a fine building. And the Danes seem to like it. Someone is eating his sandwich here in the sunlight. And the clock, of course, there are clocks in several buildings by him. He also built a few city halls, but this is a gas station, just a banal little building. But he did architecture here, even for so-called modest building. So it's possible, even if you do a gas station, it's possible to do something architecturally speaking. Okay, now a house in Copenhagen, not a private home, but a larger building. It's called a house, but maybe it has, I don't know if it has offices or apartments. It's not so big, but it's not a private residence. It probably has several apartments. Lots of bicycles there. Yes, we are talking about Denmark. And bravo to them. They are not polluting the air at all. Now, a town hall. This is the first of a series of town halls, 1938, 1942. It's you might say it's a rationalistic, a little bit rigid, perhaps building, but it has certain qualities that make it transcend banality. Look at the windows, then the kind of material he uses here. It's not as simplistic as it might appear. Again, we are dealing with a major designer, and this major designer was attentive to materials, to design, to the purity of line. It's a fine building. Another city hall in Aarhus, 1939, 1942, similar to the previous one, a little taller, and also has the bell tower or the clock tower. The clock tower, it's a city hall. So it has an aspiration towards being more than a building, meaning being an architecture. It's fine. I like that tower. And not just the tower, even this more austere building is architecture, I would say. And inside as well, you can take pictures that are very elegant, as for example, this one. So Arne Jacobsen was at bottom, if I can say so, an artist. He himself said, when the building becomes architecture, it is art. And although he does not appear to be excessively artistic, I think he is, because he's concerned with a level of excellence, aesthetically speaking, that is very clearly formulated. Even this stair, this is not a banal stair. And the purity of lines is obvious for anyone. Also, the materials he uses. And look at the space, the interior of the city hall is excellent. You know, it has a certain level of monumentality. The dignity is here. It's an official building. The lighting also is interesting. It's not banal. It's a very fine building. And it is considered a classic by Arch Daily and other venues. Even the handles, you know, it's not an assuming handle, but it was created for this particular building. There are other parts, like here with these corridors, you know, and the space in between. There is sophistication here. Arne Jacobsen was one of the important Danish architects and European architects. And what else can I say? There is much to learn from someone like him. Look at the elegance of, I mean, yes, it's just a corridor, but look at the elegance of the treatment with wood and the lamps, and it's elegant. It's simple, but also elegant. Even the parapet has a certain rhythm. It's not extravagant. It's simple, but the space also has verticality because of this void that is, inspiring because it's vertical, even though it is narrow. It's fine. And then the large room, the gathering place for the officials working in the city hall, that is fine too. Look at the stair. The stair also is elegant and is a creation. So it's a good building. It's a large building. You look at the plan. It's not a little city hall. No, it's a large building. And he built it very, very well. And controlling everything, design, the little details, the handles of the doors, the clock tower, everything is done with a very astute sense of design. Now we arrive at another interesting project by him with terraced houses, also in neighborhood of Copenhagen. They have a sensitivity towards nature. You saw it with John Utzon, but a discrete relationship is not an indifference towards nature. The silhouette of the trees is adding to the project. There is geometry here. There is rigor. There is it's a virile architecture. It's a vivacious architecture, but geometrized. There is geometry. It's a simple arrangement in a way, but it's done with skill. Look at the plan, at the site plan. So yes, he uses geometry, yes, he uses reason, but he also uses emotion in the sense that he infuses his buildings with something that is that transcends dry rationality. Another town hall or city hall, also in Denmark. This one, I don't know, it's a little bit, I mean, yes, the stair is still perfectly designed, even in terms of colors. Look at those thin, elegant, vertical red things. He was, without doubt, one of the best designers of his time. Look at the elegance of this staircase. It's truly remarkable. Done apparently with simple means, but he uses very fine materials. In terms of form, maybe they don't seem to be so incredible, but the refinements that he uses are very, very noticeable. And yes, I read that he used very fine materials, even for his chairs. That's why they were so expensive. Otherwise, the architecture, yes, it is what is called an international style, but the tree is not international style. And in contrast to the building, the tree is magnificently, wild, so to speak, or baroque, if you want. The clock is always present in some of his buildings. He enjoys and he designs the clock. This was designed by him. He even designed watches, I think. I think the lamps are also designed by him. A very good designer and a very good architect. Yes, you could say, well, it's a predictable prism. Well, it is, but the minute details, the discretion, the refinement of his touch as a designer is what makes the difference. Another housing complex where he's a little bit more experimental in the sense of there are even touches of what is called brutalism in his work. A little bit, although he's a designer, too subtle to be truly a brutalist architect, but even here in this scheme, it's an architecture that has a vigor that could be associated maybe by some with brutalism. There is a clear geometry. It has rhythm. It is rational, but the impulse towards a certain level of vigor makes it transcend rationalism or strict rationalism. He also invents. He also is an inventor, a creator. Um, so, the elevations of the buildings are not so much this one, but the one at the top. They aspire towards being architecture, meaning more than just buildings. Another town, look at the, I began with a door handle because, you could say, well, it's just a door handle. It is, but it's a touch of design of Arne Jacobsen. It's his imagination, his taste, he created this. Otherwise, the building, this one is a little bit, with the exception perhaps of the brickwork, which is so well, done. Um, what can we say? But there is materiality. The bricks don't need to be, painted over or hidden with under stucco or anything. They are architecturally significant with a robust truth. Again, another door handle in the same building. Now, a school, a very fine school, 1957. We already saw some buildings by John Utzon, been around 1950s. In the 50s was also the competition for the opera in Sydney. This is a fine school because it combines, just like those housing units by John Woodson, which had a courtyard. Here also the school has courtyards, and this, each classroom is individualized, has a private courtyard. And so I imagine when the weather was fine, the children would come out of the classroom and enjoy their own private courtyard. A nice idea. And it worked. It works. Here there are the children, and I'm sure waiting for the sun to continue to be there on the sky so they could go out and enjoy being outside. But not just in an indifferent, large, without character courtyard, but private courtyards also having communal spaces and so on. And it looks nice even from the outside of the school, just like those houses built by John Utzon, if you remember them, with the brick walls towards nature, towards the so-called environment. Nice. And to have also a tree in your own courtyard, and to know that your classroom is here and not there. This brings in a level of variety and of individuality, which is nice. Also elements of, sculptural elements here and there, if I remember well. And also the light, that the light brings, is brought into the classroom in two ways, through the big windows and also through this elevated part. And yes, sculpture that adorns the courtyard and together with the nature creates a very conducive environment for joy and desire probably to learn, hopefully. Okay, no, this is not, I was wrong. I don't know, for some reason I thought it was in Stockholm. No, it's in Copenhagen, the SAS Royal Hotel in Copenhagen from 60 years ago. It's a fine building. It's a prism. It's a clean prism. Prism is not contorted, but it's elegant. It functions well, and it has elements of great design. I mean, look at it. You know, it's very elegant. Look at this sharp corner, and the prism is very well proportioned. And I mean, look here. You know, you don't see the column. You know, it's just it's very elegant. It's not easy to do something like this. You know, it shows an ability to in a way to hide structure through the discretions, the subtlety of design. Yes, it has columns, as you can see, but in the elevations, where are they? I mean, you see them here a little bit, but not at the corner. So there is a degree of freedom the architect achieved through subtle means. The furniture is also designed by him. His, you know, trademark egg chair, I think it is called. We'll take a look at his designs for furniture as well. So Copenhagen, the SAS Royal Hotel. It's not any hotel, it's the Royal Hotel. And look at the drawing. He did a drawing. It's a fine drawing, handmade. And the stair, we saw already this drawing, another view. And now we arrive at the chocolate factory from 1961. I wouldn't mind eating a chocolate now, to be honest with you, but I don't have in the house. Very, very fine design, no? Simple, rational, but still somehow poetical. You know, a certain kind of poetry, architectural poetry is at work here. And I would say it's a good building. I would say it's architecture. Look at this thing here, how delicately almost it is suspended from the wall. And so there is here a designer, meaning an artist at work. National Bank of Denmark, 1965, 1970, Copenhagen. He did several buildings like this, an embassy, you'll see. He also built in Germany. It's still Arne Jacobsen, an architect who uses clean geometries and prisms, but he infuses them with a certain tension between glass and opaqueness, even stone. So he's not a simplistic, banal architect. No, he's not. And look at the beauty of this space inside. Look at that staircase. It's a tour de force. Very, very elegant. It's almost flying, you know, and it works. It functions. It has the right stability, but it's very pleasant aesthetically. Even the light, the sunlight, I'm sure enjoys falling on that staircase. And so here is the building, and an older building in front of it. Sorry about the Alami thing. These people sign everything. Now, this is a building in Sweden from 1965. Is a sports arena, and it's not Miss van der Rohe, although you might be tempted to think a little bit of the museum in Berlin, the art gallery in Berlin by Mies. It's not. It's different. Even has this you know, sitting areas on a curved arrangement. But it's a fine building. It's a fine building for sports. Is, you know, you could say, you know, you can't really do a lot here, but he did with simple, rather simple means. He also worked in Great Britain, in Oxford, in the UK, United Kingdom, for St. Catherine's College at Oxford, 1964, 1966. So he was already over 60. Still Arne Jacobsen, Still the same architect was able to marry prismatic architecture with more romantic display of natural abundance. Um, there is rigor, there is order, but there is also a sensibility that look at the lamps here on these tables, you know, of solid wood. And it's very elegant. And you see a lamp is oriented towards this and the other way, facing the other way. And I don't know, there is also movement here, meaning variety. Now, maybe these days we wouldn't be like this, maybe. But you, if you do, you are not on the wrong side of architecture, no. No, because as Charles Baudelaire said, art has two halves, and one half has to do with the eternal and the permanent, and the other half is about the transitory and the circumstantial. So here there is an element that is not really changing. So it doesn't, is not paralyzed by fashion. It escapes that paralysis. It's a fine building. Oxford, of course, it had to be a fine building. Arne Jacobsen in Great Britain, he built another, the embassy of Denmark in London, and we are going to see it. Now we see another city hall, but this time in Germany. He was again over 60 now. I think it's a good building, this one. And he's able to negotiate between the opaque walls and the transparent walls, that is where there is glass. But even the glass has this geometrized embroidery, if I can call it so. And so there are complex things here. It's a good building, and it's different from, a little bit different from the other buildings that we saw. Anyway, a view from the inside. These are two elevators, you know, dramatically kind of, you know, manifesting themselves. And I like this arrangement here. You know, he also plays with various angles here, and I like the way it's musical in a way. The way he treats this part of the building. Yes, there is glass, but it's not just a banal, you know, piece of glass. It has a certain complexity. A city hall in Germany. Arne Jacobsen. Now I don't know. Maybe this seems to be busy, too busy here. But maybe the picture is a little bit was maybe, I don't know, with some photoshopping in it. It looks a little different than the other pictures. I prefer this picture where is a very nice balance between the fragmentation of the glass part and the monumentality, the sculpturalness of the opaque parts. So there is this equilibrium between the two. Now we arrive at another, this is a large building, very long, still Arne Jacobsen. It has also sculptural parts like here, but it's also a big, long prism. Look at it. It's huge. It's a forum. It's some kind of a convention center, or I don't know what it is. But it is a very fine building, I would say, by Arne Jacobsen. And the sculpturalness is still, it is present, but it's not alarmingly present. It has a level of balance and reticence even. Discretion. The Scandinavians are very good at this, in general. A school in Hamburg. Here I didn't quite understand what is going on. It's a large thing. The structure seems, I mean, it has a level of complexity. He was already approaching the end of his life, and you see the building is a large building. The delicate touch of the designer that he displayed earlier somehow here seems to be a little bit missing. But still, if we look at this picture, we saw in the city hall in Germany that we saw previously this fragmentation of the glass part of the facade. Here, there it was vertical. Here it is horizontal because of this pergola that filters the light in this way, and it becomes pleasant and interesting and inciting. So all in all, this is an architect who can teach us to build well within the rationalistic or rational paradigm. And there are some parts that are rather, sculptural, but in the same way of the same kind of architectural language that rejects flamboyant gestures. And this is how it looks like from above. It's very organized, very well structured. I don't know, again, what the function is of all these, I don't know, frames in concrete. But all in all, it looks like an architectural organism that is peacefully serving its function. Interesting work. A school in Hamburg. And now, I don't know if we have another project by him. Yes, we do. This one also in Hamburg from 1970. It's very elegant, and another big building is for offices. Look at the plan. This is huge, and probably for a very successful company. I don't know anything about it. But the building even now makes nice pictures, both during the winter and during the summer. Look at it. I mean, I'm not a rationalist, far from it. I don't have a great appetite for functionalism, but this is more than functionalism. In fact, it transcends any ism. Yes, there are prisms, but he arrives at the level of architecture. This is not just a building. This is architecture. It's elegance. It has a little bit of variety. It is poetical. This is architectural poetry with a language that maybe something might be a little bit too so-called predictable. I don't know. It's a valid building from a certain period of the 20th century, but I think it continues to be impressive because of the elegance, he did arrive again. He transcended the level of mere building, both inside and outside. The chairs are also his, and probably the tables as well. Handling of the light is also generous and careful and inspired. Now, this is the last building that I show by Arne Jacobsen, the Royal Danish Embassy in London from 1976, 1977. I think he was already dead when it was finalized, the work. So the Embassy of Denmark in London, it's already, I mean, a building by Arne Jacobsen, kind of similar. We know by now the kind of architecture he does for a certain kind of institutions. It has vigor, it has movement, it has rhythm, but it's all controlled by the will of the architect. And I think it's another fine building by Arne Jacobsen. He received some very important commissions. Why? Because he was a major architect in his country and in Europe. I mean, there are here things, if you begin to study carefully, you discover all kinds of sophisticated elements that create this building is not just a simple scheme that was erected, doesn't matter how. No, it is the work of a careful designer. London, the 70s. And at night, a picture which was, created in order to look a little bit spectacular. Now, we arrive at the end of the presentation. Tonight, furniture and product design. Because he was a very accomplished designer, he was also able to build some very interesting pieces of furniture. We start with the ant chair from 1952. So the ant chair is a classic of modern chair design. It was designed in 1952 by Arne Jacobsen for use in the canteen of the Danish pharmaceutical firm Novo Nordisk. The ant was named for its approximate similarity to the outline of an ant with its head raised. And here it is, with 3 legs. He seemed to like, if you remember the first work I showed, that tower near the sea, also with 3 legs. And it's here that he creates something, a little bit, unique. No, it's not just not just the 3 legs, but also the wooden part that refers to the ant that the text just mentioned. Now, a stool, also with 3 legs, and a tongue chair, and you'll see why it is called the tongue chair from 1955. Whimsical names for these pieces of furniture. The Series 7 chairs. He designed many chairs. And of course, the Danish culture in the field of design is very rich with Hans Wegner and other great designers. This is Arne Jacobsen, the Swan chair from 1958. The egg chair, apparently extremely comfortable. This one I read is very expensive, like, more expensive than a car. If I am to compare, $75,000, if I remember correctly, this chair. But I understood extremely comfortable and built very well. Here are some chairs he designed, together like a family of chairs. And here an even larger family of chairs by Arne Jacobsen. And here they are inviting us to sit on them. They do look voluptuously comfortable. Here is the architect as a thinker. Let us not forget Søren Kierkegaard, the great philosopher, was also Danish. We see here the chair he designed for that restaurant from an early work with a Bellevue theater, and then what he arrived at. And a nice evolution, no? Another chair, he did many, anyway. The sofa. Maybe it looks like it is a little bit tall here for a sofa, but who knows? Another interesting chair. He worked with series, just like other designers. So he created a chair with slight variations in between them. This one also looks expensive, no? Is it leather there? Probably. And wooden, probably wooden base. Leather on wood. Desk and the lamp he designed both for various occasions and various contexts. And here I think is the last picture of this presentation. So we looked at Arne Jacobsen. Today it is his birthday and we wish him happy birthday. And previously today also we looked at John Utzon. His birthday will come later on this year. So thank you very much. And let's hope we'll continue tomorrow with a different presentation.